Hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 27th day of June, 2024. Well, we're almost at the end of the month. 4th of July is coming. Last year, people do the kinds of fireworks that generally you see at fireworks shows. I don't know where they get them, but they're all over the place. And last year, between that and the gunfire, there was so much sulfur smell from all of it. It was just horrible. I've never had that before here. Lived here for 43 years, and we've never. I mean, people do fireworks, but the smell and the fumes, and it literally coated our eyes. It was awful. So maybe it won't be like that this time. Or maybe it will. Anyway, let's take a look at the rune from the Elder Futhark bag. Well, we have Ingus, or Ingwas, however you wish to say it. Depends on the Futhark you're looking at. I finally decided on this one. You can do two X's, one on top of the other, but in the center you've got the diamond anyway. And I just find when I'm doing bind runes, I like this one better. So I just use this one. I don't think it's in the actual Elder Futhark. I think it's in a different one. But I co-opted it for mine, so I mean, I can do what I want with that, so it's fine. But anyway, I've always used this one instead of the double X. I just find when I do bind runes, it's just easier. It incorporates more easily than the two X's do. So, but it's not that I wouldn't use it. I would. But anyway, Inkus is about the sudden release of energy. It can be considered male fertility, but think of it in terms of the key word, the seed. And so the seed germinates, and then it basically explodes into creation, or explodes into life, explodes into its growth process. But so you're really talking about genetic inheritance and potential here with Ingus. And so let's see though what the Geomancy runes have to say for the below side. So something's going to manifest today. Either something's going to manifest, or you're going to manifest something. It could also mean inner focus and grounding. But let's just think of it in terms of something coming into play, maybe. Let's see, we'll put this in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. We've got Fortuna Major. So Fortuna Major is greater fortune. Its complement is Fortuna Minor, which is more progressive success. But Fortuna Major can have to do with success, greater fortune, the ego. It could mean, on the ill-dignified side of it, it could mean, micromanaging and things like that. Those kinds of expectations here. But it's very driven. It's very driven energy to succeed. And so whatever you're going to manifest today, or whatever is coming into play today, will likely be successful in some way. So we don't really have any differences there, or opposition there between Ingus and Fortuna Major, other than maybe how the path you take to get there. So if it's one where it's very service to self, then that could be, at the expense of others, essentially. Taking maybe a shortcut to get there. Whereas if it had been Fortuna Minor, that would be you'd be paying attention to the process that you use to get there. Might be collaborative in nature or something like this. But this is really about the successful business executive or something like that. That type of energy with Fortuna Major, as opposed to its complement Fortuna Minor. But again, if something is coming into play today, something's manifesting, it's going to be, there's a lot of energy with that, with Ingus. And oftentimes when that happens, it can be very successful. But again, it depends on how you get there, and hopefully the cards are going to give some kind of information about that. We'll cut the deck, take the lower half. Well, we have, let's see, energetically we have kind of a neutral effect here, although we do have two cards from the Suit of Swords and one from the Suit of Cups. Air and water sort of, they don't really impact each other. One's on one level, one's on another. Although it could, the wind could maybe make the seas choppy or something. So it could have that kind of effect. But let's see here. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and what happened to my calculator? I had to come up with another mouse this morning because my mouse for this computer has to charge, and I can't use it when I'm charging it. So I had to run around and find another mouse. Okay, so we've got Urus, which would be the 22nd rune, which let me do it two ways. Because it's a 22, that's a master number, and I'm going to ultimately leave that alone. 22 is the cosmic builder, so it's perfect for Ingus, being manifesting from a higher perspective, from soul level, from the collective consciousness, all of that. But let's go ahead, see 22 plus the 10 of swords, so there's 10, plus the 5 of cups. And how did that happen? Let me go to 22 plus 10 plus 5. Okay, that was right. 37 plus 2 is 39. 9, that'd be 12. That would be 3. So we have a 3 numerology from a lower vibrational state. So remember that one. Let me just write that down here. 3, and then let's do this again without putting the 22 in there. So we've got 10 plus 5 plus 2 is 17, and so there you're looking at an 8. 1 and 7 is 8. So let me just do 22 and then 8. So I can remember that. All right. Let's leave the 22 out of it and look at the 8, just the numerology of the cards collectively themselves. There you're looking at 8, which is inner strength. But it's also material recognition and approval, which is going to align well with Fortuna Major, and also with whatever it is that you're going to manifest may get the attention of the bosses basically today, or the boss. Or possibly if you're looking for another job, that could be something like that, where you've got your resume and the company that you'd like to go work for is looking at it and is very impressed with it. And so, we'll see how that goes here. Just maybe we'll go down that road, maybe we won't. Let's look first at the 10 of swords. Now I know this looks bad. We had this on Monday, the 10 of swords. And we also had the major arcana card strength, which is kind of interesting that the 8 numerology is about strength. So there seems to be a little bit of a connection with Monday's reading here, but we won't look at it that way, I don't think. But here we have 10 swords piercing the back of a guy on the ground at the water's edge there, close to the water's edge. You see a big body of water there. You see some mountains in the distance. You see the night up here, but you can see the sun is starting to rise. Even though you don't see it, the night is lifting. And how we can interpret this is with swords, you're looking at the intellect. It's the air element. And since we have a run on swords with the 2 and the 10, whenever you have more than one card of a suit, you have a run on something, on whatever that suit is. And so here we have some intellectual stuff going on, maybe some perceptions that are no longer serving you. The night is lifting, the day is dawning, and so you have the opportunity for something new to manifest. And so that's going to align very well with Ingus and the idea of manifesting something new. And again, from a higher perspective, the sun always represents the soul, or can represent heaven. And so and it's also our identity. You think your sun sign and all of that. Although in esoteric astrology, you'll be looking at your rising sign. So even though I'm a Libra, my rising sign is Virgo. And so you can't just look at Libra. You have to also look at Virgo as well, and what that means to you. And then my moon's in Gemini. So, chatty. Anyway, so I like to share my emotions. Let's put it that way. But anyway, here you have again, the night's lifting and the day is dawning. And so you're letting go of, in other words, you've gone as far as you can go with the perceptions that you have. And maybe now you're wanting to explore other ones because they're not serving you anymore. It starts out, the card before that is the Nine of Swords, where you awaken from a nightmare and you're putting everything in order. There's a sense of order about the card, even though you're waking up from a nightmare. You're realizing that this is not, that this isn't real, and that maybe you need to think about things in a different way. That could be one way of looking at that card. And then you come to the 10, where you're just letting go of the things that are no longer serving you. I think that maybe, is it rune that's the hermetic name for this card? Maybe, but I don't know if it's rune or not. I need to check. I mean, the idea of something's over, something intellectual is over, and there's just no, you can't go any further with it. So you could have been having some ideas or beliefs that really weren't accurate, and over time you realize that, there's a sense of realization with the 9, I think, that all of it just doesn't make any sense anymore. And the idea of a nightmare, I mean, nightmares don't make sense, right? They're just scary and they're disturbing, and they wake you up, and you don't know what to do. I mean, the guy's holding his head, and here he's just letting it all go, and his face is actually turned toward the light. You can see here, you can't see his face, so he's actually turned toward the light. And so I think that's why I see this as, even though it looks bad, I see it as a really positive card, because you're willing to let go of things that, ideas and belief structures that are just not, they're not in line with higher awareness, essentially. And so with Ingus, then you're ready to manifest something else. Unfortunately, we have the 5. Well, in fact, before I go to the 5, because the 10 and the 2 of Swords surround the 5, they're influencing the 5 of Cups. And here you have a woman sitting on a bench with her back to the water. The water isn't perfectly smooth, so there's some emotion involved there. You see the moon above. You see, and she's sitting in another area. It's like that was then and this is now. Okay, so the emotions that she was feeling, she's blindfolding herself to. She sees this also in the 8 of Swords, where you're bound and blindfolded with the swords surrounding. Same sort of principle, where you're turning off the noise around you, even of your own thoughts, and you're going to go within and figure out what you need to do. And so she's bound and blindfolded, so she has no influence of if any of that. Otherwise, what it means is that you've got a lot of oppressive voices around you that are trying to control you. That might be another way to look at this. But here, I think what we're looking at is she needs to make a decision, and she needs to do so dispassionately, without the influence of emotion interfering with what she needs to decide. Air element is very intellectual. It's not an emotion-based thing. Although you'll see that on the cards, you'll see multiple elements represented. But I think it's telling the story of what it is the player on the card is doing. And I think that here, she's having to make a decision about something. And here may have been the emotional aspect here of the water back here. Maybe this is what she's having to let go of to make the decision. There's a lot of disappointment here. You see the home in the distance, maybe the little castle there. You see the arched bridge to get there across the water. You see 3 cups overturned with their contents spilled on the ground. You see 2 behind him. He's just bereft. There's been a major change in his life. And the major change, and that's with the 5 numerology. 5 means change. It can mean protection. It can also mean innovation, variety, all of that. But the biggest influence is that there's been a major change that has just left him very disappointed and very upset. The cups or his emotions are spilled out all over the ground. None of it matters. 2 behind, none of it matters. He's not seeing any of it. He's just got his head down. He's wearing the black cloak, and so his mood is very dark, and he's very upset because of this big change. The thing is, is if you've let go of ideas that no longer serve you. What if you were part of a group, for example, that suddenly there was something about it that drew you in, right? And now you realize that that's not right. The kinds of things they're thinking about and talking about and doing and all of that, really you're not comfortable with. But in the moment, you were drawn in and got in, but over time you just don't see it that way anymore. So the change could have to do with letting go of that group of people that you've become friends with and involved with and all of that. So if so, and you're letting go of that, you're going to have some emotion about that, and it's not going to feel all that great. You're probably going to second guess yourself. You're going to have some doubt. Who knows how you're going to feel, but clearly it's not going to be a fun time. That transition into something else oftentimes isn't, especially if you've had to let go of things that you thought you believed in and realized at some point, you know what, this isn't what I believe in. And so you're having to walk away from people and experiences that maybe you were involved in. Maybe you've disappointed yourself with some of the things you were thinking. It could be something like that for you today. And if so, you've just got to get it together and realize, this is just part of the process. This is part of the transition. When you're moving away from a particular mindset that just you realize at this point, maybe new information's come in, or you've just realized, what, I'm on the wrong path. And so, you're going to be a little upset about that because maybe it means that you can't really associate with that group anymore. Maybe it's that big of an extreme thing, an extreme awareness that you've realized that this is not going to be what is going to serve you well in the long run. And so a decision has to be made about what your next moves are. And to me, I think then how Fortuna Major comes into this, when you're manifesting from a higher perspective and you realize and you make some changes in your life, the door is open to all kinds of things, and things that can either be very successful, or Fortuna Major could simply be about the fact that you have successfully moved past something that really isn't where you should be in the first place. And so if something like that's happening for you today, you just need to think about, I guess drop resistance to and be gentle on yourself in this transition of where you're making the realization, and and maybe it's something where you're not very proud of yourself about for going on along that path or going along with that particular group of people and engaging in something that in your heart isn't right. And now you have the courage to walk away from that, to make that decision to walk away from all of that, to put things into a better perspective, one that really reflects the higher ideals that you feel more comfortable embracing. And from there, either Fortuna Major is talking about that being successful for you, which is a really big deal, to have to go through that process and come out on the other side ready to move on in a different way. I mean, that's the epitome of success in my view. But at the same time, it may open the doors for a more successful experience, whether it means additional money or not. Fortuna Major doesn't necessarily have to do with money, although it can. But it could be just the actual, because between the two, Fortuna Major and Minor, again, Minor is about the progressive steps you take to get somewhere, and then Fortuna Major would be the outcome of it. A successful outcome. So the successful outcome could be all kinds of things. But again, it could open the door for something else to happen, that maybe the perceptions you had were keeping you stuck in a place that, had you stayed there, it's just going to essentially dig a hole for everybody concerned. If it's a group you're part of or whatever, there's a hole that's being dug and you're not going to get out of it. There's not going to be anything successful about that. There's not going to be a positive outcome about it. And so that may be the realization that you've made. And especially, considering this is such a significant card, the light's returning. And so, soul or higher awareness is saying, look, what are you doing? Why are you thinking this way? This isn't going to get you anywhere. It's going to dig you into some kind of a morass or an abyss of something which isn't going to serve you well. And so you make that realization. You go through the emotions that you're going to go through, and then just accept that as part of the process. You're going to have times where you feel, well, geez, maybe I should go back to that group, or maybe it was okay, but it's not. And I think that the Ten of Swords is telling you that. And so feel what you feel, go through all those emotions. They could be very significant in the beginning, but at some point you're going to be ready to walk away from all of that. The emotions are going to subside, and then you're going to make a decision that's going to be best for you. And given the fact that it's swords again, you're looking at either a different path or a different perspective, or a return to what you used to believe maybe before you got caught up in something else maybe. Or at least maybe you've been inspired maybe by somebody else who gets you to sort of reorders things for you, reorders your perspective, where it's like, oh, okay, I see now, and then you're able to reject that other stuff in a much easier way when you make that realization. And when you do it dispassionately without emotions getting involved, you're a little more analytical about it. You're looking at things in a detail-oriented way. You're examining things in a different way than you would emotionally. And so you're kind of looking for facts, maybe. But once they come, then it opens the door to something new. And I think that that's where the Fortuna Major Geomancy rune comes in. You can manifest something new with urus, or not urus, but ingus, and then manifest something that's a lot more successful for you. Even if it's just in terms of your own perceptions, you're on a better path instead of being on one that is maybe very narrow-minded and ego-based. You open your mind and your heart and your vision, your higher vision, to something that is excuse me, far more lofty and far more higher awareness based. Sometimes you get involved in groups that are very judgmental, and they have this perspective and these positions about things, especially politically. That can happen, and you get caught up in it, and then you realize at some point, no, none of this is making sense to me anymore. And so maybe you look elsewhere, or you just start, or you go within and you think about, now what really makes sense? What's really right here? And so you walk away from that particular mindset, and you embrace one that is more loving and collaborative and harmony based, and the whole idea of being part of the collective consciousness versus some small collective group that's based on somebody's loud voice that seems to be dominating everybody's mindsets at this point. They're the leader, you're following. It's like, well, no, maybe that's not really the thing. You make that realization today that that's not really what you want to do, and so you manifest something else. And I think that that's really I think that the cards all dovetail quite well with both runes. And but again, I think you're looking at the cards, and it's the effect of the ego on our mindset and on our belief structure, on our judgments, on things like that maybe are doing that from something that doesn't have all the facts. And so if you are, then now is the time to think differently about something and consider something from a different angle, from a different perspective. And even though you don't want to beat yourself up for all the stuff you were involved in, you don't really want to do that, because I don't think there's any reason to. Once you make the realization, just move forward and let the rest of it go. You learned something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be making the decisions you're making right now. But I think that, again, the emotion can't come into that decision. If you were following somebody's perspective on something, if you were part of a group where you were engaged in one thing or another, where you were expressing ideas that were really oppressive to other people, that's not the place you probably want to be. And so maybe you've realized it and you're moving on, and you're moving back into something that is less ego based and less judgmental, and trying to see the bigger picture here, and making a different decision about all of that. Um, I think that's from there you manifest any number of things, but you manifest a new perspective, uh, and uh, and that grows instead of the judgment and the negativity and the narrow perspective maybe that you had before. And again, maybe it's just something you got caught up in. Maybe it's something that you grew up with, and now you're beginning to see the cause and effect of all of that, the results of something like that, and maybe you're not comfortable with it. And so you have to let go of all of that. And I think maybe the five might be discussing that change in your emotional state, where the emotions you had that contributed to that mindset are no longer serving either. There's just the feeling here of in the 10 and the 5 here, of things are just not functioning well anymore, both emotionally and intellectually, and a decision has to be made. And in order to manifest something that's successful, you've got to make a different choice. So, anyhow, I think that's it. I don't think we need to say any more. It's just one of those things where instead of something like, oh, you might have a new job come your way or something like that, what this is some inner work that needs to be done. And we all have to do that from time to time, kind of look back and say, okay, am I on the right track? Am I, something, because especially if you're feeling uncomfortable about something, if something doesn't seem to fit right anymore, you got to go within and figure out what that is, and figure out the direction you need to take. And I think when you do, I think with the numerology here, if we look at the 22, the Master 22 numerology, you're looking at the cosmic builder, which is profound soul level change. So this is a very I mean, it's a huge energy, right? That's this sort of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Come on, let's go, let's get to work," and let's do something better with what you're thinking and how you're feeling. And with the 8, that can mean strength. And so in this case, inner strength, to be able to let go of things, emotions and ideas and mindsets that no longer serve you, and make it a better decision about where you go from here. Um, and uh, and I'm not going to speculate any further as to what this might entail. Um, the political stuff just comes to mind because we're dealing with that right now, and that just seems to be, people are waking up to the idea that, hey, I don't want to be associated with that. I want to be associated with this. And so you're seeing that transformation, that transition people are going through, where they realize that how they thought was not the best way to think. And so now they're willing to make that transition into something that feels more comfortable to them, that's more positive and about moving forward collectively, and doing right for others, elevating society. So there's that's going on right now. So that'd be the most simple one to look at. But that doesn't mean that's what it is. There just could be something where you're making some realizations right now that you need to make a different choice. So as a result, so that you manifest something better for your life, and for your mindset, and for your peace of mind, and your emotions, and all of that. So it's all put together into one package. Okay, I keep saying all of that, but it's all part of the same experience, the experience that you're having here as a soul, in form, essentially in physical reality. And so you want to continue on to learn and grow and develop and all of that. And if you don't, then you get stuck in perceptions that leave you here, right? And maybe in sorrow and grief that you can't get away from. So that's it for a Thursday. Thanks for watching. If you haven't yet clicked subscribe, I'd love you to do that. Check out my blog, Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. I also write over on Substack, Medium, and Patreon if you want to follow me over there. Basically, I post the write-ups for the videos and a link to them over on those sites. And I do the write-up over on the blog as well at Stepping Aside. If you forget the web address for any of those things, just click on more below the video and it'll open up a window and it'll show you the web address first, and then you scroll down to get the social media and other publishing platforms that I'm on. So you can check all that out there. New stuff comes out in the midnight hour of Sunday morning every week, and then of course the write-ups for the videos are the day of the videos. So check all that out if you would. I'd love you to do that, and come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. I think what is Monday? Is Monday the 1st of July? I think, is it? No, that's Saturday. Or no, that's June. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Monday is July 1st. So we'll be in a new month. Anyhow, have a good weekend. And again, come back on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.